Okay, so we're going to talk about time management. I think this is something that everybody on this program needs. We are all, or you are all sort of working. You could balance your studies with, 8 to 5 job. Many of you got girlfriends and wives and kids, and any part-time study is simply very difficult. Ask me, I've done it for many years. It is not easy. So we need to have a look at the time management issue. The problem is we can't really manage time. Time it just is. In other words, you can't buy time, borrow time, steal time, put it away, save it for a rainy day. We have, 7 days a week with 24 hours. We have the same amount of time. The only thing that we can do is we can manage ourselves with respect to time. And that's where we need to get very clever. If you don't do it, I can guarantee you that in 6 months down the line, you will not be on this course. I see it all the time. People just cannot handle it. They drop out, not because they're stupid, not because they don't have the brain power. It's just they can't manage themselves with respect to time. They burn themselves out. So, as I said, we cannot manage time. We can manage ourselves. How do we do that? Well, we have to discard the habits that waste time. And by the way, I just want to share it with one of mine. I got rid of my TV, and all of a sudden I got lots of extra time. And when there's a good program, I visit my friend. But I don't have a TV because it's an electronic income reducer for me. So discarding habits that waste time, and also creating habits that help you to use your time more efficiently. For example, if you've got a problem with reading speed and you do speed reading so that you can double your speeding time, imagine that you could cut down on your preparation time for your advanced diploma by 50% because you can read at twice the speed, and so on and so on and so on. So you have to cultivate good habits. Now, how do we know if we have poor time management? Well, we find we don't get a lot done, right? Because of that, we become frustrated because the pressure is mounting. Because we're frustrated, it saps all our mental energy. So your energy levels get low. You get depressed, irritated, annoyed, frustrated. You're always rushing. You're always late with your assignments. You have to ask for extensions, whatever. And things like you're always late. And that is a very good indicator that something is not right. You're taking on too much, or you're just not managing your time. Okay, now I'm not going to read all this. You can read all this stuff yourself. But I'll just pick up a few things that I think are very important. For example, do you have a to-do list for every day? Very important. Doesn't have to be a fancy typed one. Can be a scribbled one. Have you got a to-do list? The other one, do you have a calendar? Do you know how many people go through their professional life without a calendar? Now, where I sit here, and I do have a Google Calendar, but I don't want to log in every time. So I've got a printed one, and I'm actually touching it now. It's lying on my printer here, and I can see all my webcasts for the month of September. And if I turn the page, I can see all my webcasts for October and for November and December. I can even see my December holiday coming up on my printout because I have a calendar, and so on. And the other one is also prioritization. It's fine having a list with 10 jobs to do for the day, but which is the first one and which one is the last? The rest you can read through. I don't want to waste your time by reading, but most of you have already read this in any case. But just a few things that I want to share with you. Also, if you're at work, how do you deal with interruptions? The phone rings, people walking into your office talking nonsense. How do you get rid of them? Do you ever look back on your to-do list? In other words, before you go home, do you look at your to-do list and say, well, what have I done today? Have I ticked off all 10 objects, or have I only done the first 3? If that's the case, what went wrong? And try and sort it out, okay? Also, do you know how to say no when people try and load stuff on you that you can't handle? Okay. So, and the other thing is emails. That's one of the worst things you can do is to start your day by reading emails. I know some people do because their job requires it. But man, oh man, if you hit your email inbox and at 10 o'clock in the morning you're still doing emails, there's a problem. Okay, so here we go. The last one is actually quite funny. I tend to ask people to tell me how long it will take to find the previous year's income tax return. And some people say, well, maybe within a day or within a few hours. Most people can't even find it, which means that your filing system is, not up to scratch. cabinet trying to find stuff. Okay, so here are things that waste time, lack of planning, interruptions, people walking into your office talking nonsense, you've got work to do. Perfectionism means redoing the job, and while it's already good enough, you say, yeah, but good enough is not good enough for me. Yeah, but you now keep on sharpening the pencil and you're not doing the other important stuff. This is perfectionism. There is a point where good enough truly is good enough because the time's up. Okay, not delegating. If you're in a position of management and you are able to delegate, but you don't. So I'm not saying, abdicate your job, but delegating is a good thing if you have people that are able and willing to take on jobs that are given to them. Not delegating and insisting that you're the only guy that can do it because you're the best. Be careful. Multitasking means, you try to do two things at the same time. It's just not possible. Women can, and I'm not making fun here, women can do it better than men, but men cannot really multitask. In fact, listen to a guy, if somebody, let's say your friend's driving the car and you want to talk to him, you find that he possibly has to turn down the volume because he can't listen to the music and talk to you at the same time. Now try and do 4 jobs at the same time, does not work. The meetings, damn meetings, not a good thing. I found the beauty of my present job is that all my meetings are on Skype, and if the time's over, I'm gone. I'm not sitting there for, wasting time on a meeting. Procrastination, it's another, this one is a killer. Most people, not most, but many people suffer from this disease. It's a mental issue, a mental thing where they put off things that they should actually do. And because they don't do it, they get stressed because the pressure now mounts and they get more and more stressed and depressed and anxious because they're not doing what they should do. If procrastination is a problem, I'm not going to deal with it here, but something that you should attend to, and there are lots of ways that you can deal with the thing. Just go and do some Google searches on it, but it's a habit that you got to break. Disorganization, your table is a mess. You can't find things. TV, when you're checking TV when you shouldn't. For doing Facebook and internet all the time, emails, and then also and just a negative attitude. If you're a bad attitude towards your job, and also surrounding yourself by negative people, everything works together to make your day less than effective and efficient. Okay. So why do we procrastinate? Coming back to that procrastination thing, people. One of the reasons is actually psychological. People are just afraid of things, afraid of doing things because they might fail or they might even succeed. And some people have this, it's almost a psychological desire to work under pressure. So they will delay to the point where they feel, oh hell, if they don't start now, they'll never get it done. And they work under tremendous pressure. But it's not a clever way. One of the, a more technical reason for procrastination is also if the job's not nice, so you put it off, or it's just so big, it's so overwhelming that you can't start. And the funny thing is that once you start, it's actually not so bad. But the longer you procrastinate, the worse the damn thing becomes. And I think most people can relate to this. You keep on putting off something until one day you really decide you can't do it any longer. You just do it, and then you realize in 5 minutes you've done the job that you've been postponing for months. And the final thing is also, I'm just going to combine those two. If you're not sure exactly what to do, you don't know where you're going, you don't know what the next step is, then you also tend to hang on because you're not sure what to do next. So that having unclear goals in your work at a departmental level, at a personal level, tends to make this problem worse. Let me just get the next slide here. Okay. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think most of us can relate to this. Some people are brilliant in the morning, but they fade after lunchtime. Some people are half asleep in the morning, but they're good after lunch. And some people like me are excellent in the evening. I'm bad in the morning. I'm half asleep, especially if I'm jet lagged. But man, come about 6, 7 p.m., I'm good. And I could have a meeting, a technical meeting at 11 o'clock at night sometimes. Even tonight, I'm having a class from 11 to 12, and it doesn't bother me in the least because I'm an evening person. All that this slide and the next one basically says is that try, if you can, if you got to say, decide what sort of person you are and do the right sort of job for that time. In other words, if you can choose. Now, some of us can't, but if you're fully alert, you do the critical things, the important reading, and the stuff that potentially could put you to sleep. So because you're awake, you got drive, you do it, and you do all the things that require alertness, attentiveness in that period of time. Therefore, if you're an early morning person, if 8 o'clock to 11, for example, is excellent time for you, you're actually doing yourself a disservice by reading emails. What you should be doing is your design work, the creative stuff, the right brain stuff, and you leave the emails till after lunch when you're half asleep. Okay, that's fully alert mode, and then the other one is alert mode, and the last one is sluggish mode. Oh, what it basically says is that do the stuff that really demand your best when you're alert, and leave on the other side of the scale, leave the mundane stuff like answering emails when you're half asleep, like after lunch, between 2 and 4. It's up to you. Now, if we move on, what this slide talks about is the effects, the elements of effective time management, and there's several things here. First one is to look at how you're currently using your time, and I'll get back to these. These are just the headings. Okay. The second one is setting goals, and I'm not talking about grandiose personal goals like sailing around the world. I'm talking about setting goals in the workplace, or setting goals with your studies to have certain things done by a certain time. And the third one is defining priorities. What comes first? What comes second? What comes third? And then the fourth one is scheduling it. When? What time of day? What day of the week? What week of the month? And then 5 is your personal plan. Okay, you can do it for your next holiday. You can do this also for your advanced diploma studies. So let's look at the way to do this. Now, the first one, I know everybody pays lip service to this. Nobody wants to do it because it's boring, it takes time, but it's very interesting if you do it. Now, a doctor will sometimes do this for you. He'll say, make a note of everything that you eat during the day, and you put a piece of paper in the kitchen. If you come back for a snack, write down, you want a piece of toast, write it down. At the end of the day, you ask yourself, did I really eat this? My goodness, it's no wonder I'm so fat, because look at all the chocolate and look at all the coffee with sugar and look at all the toast and jam, but you don't realize it at the time unless you make a note of it. Now, the same with your time. It's very interesting. I was part of a team that did management consulting, and at one point in time, my job was to task. You can do the same with your evenings. You find that you're behind with your assignments or with your studies, but you realize that you spend 6 to 7 playing tennis with your mates, and then 7 to 9 having dinner and playing with the kids, and then 9 till 10 watching TV. And it's no wonder you didn't get time for your assignment because it wasn't scheduled. Here's something I want to share with you. Have you noticed that you and I are both in this class at this time? Exactly. It's my time is now 5:20 p.m. and at 5 o'clock we were all in the class. I was possibly 30 seconds late. But why were we in the class? The reason is we've made an entry in our diaries. My diary said that at 5 o'clock I have a class with DMN05, and we're doing the first webcast of Module 5 at 5 o'clock, not 5:30, not 6, but at 5. So my time with you has been blocked out on my calendar. Now, in the same way, one should actually block out your time for spending time with the kids or exercising or whatever, because if it's in your diary, it will get done. Okay, so anyway, evaluating time usage. I'm digressing here. Then you ask yourself, or you do it for a day or two, and you ask yourself, did I have priorities? Did I do the right stuff? Did I really need to do it myself? Can I do it faster? Can I do it more simply, less detail? What am I doing wrong? And what am I doing right? Pat yourself on the back if you do things right, but don't be too hard on yourself if you don't do it right. Just, take heed and improve. Now, the other thing, and again, I'm not reading the fine print, interruptions. Who is interrupting you? Is it a phone call? Is it Skype? Is it somebody walking into your office? And how can you deal with it? And it's not so difficult to handle if you realize that it's a problem. So just evaluate your time. Have you noticed that if you go to a doctor, you very, very clearly see when it's time to leave? his whole body language will tell you you have to leave now. Why? He'll sit and talk to you and ask you how you are, where's the pain, whatever. And at some point, he'll write your script, and then if necessary, you might even get up and you get the cue, and he'll actually open the door for you, which means, can you leave now because your time's up? If he doesn't do that, you could be sitting there for half an hour doing small talk. Now, this happens in the work as well, and that's a massive time waster. Okay, so now the other thing that you need to do is, we said first, we check where your day is going. Now, next thing is set goals. Now, I'm not talking about, as I said, the wonderful goals, you know, the retirement goals, the travels, the sailing and flying around the world. I'm talking about work goals, yeah. And passing your advanced diploma or finishing the different modules. Now, the goals need to be specific. Don't waffle. You know, if you say, for example, if you want to go on holiday, for example, to Mauritius before the end of the year, that is a specific goal, right? Don't say, I want to get better at studies. That's not specific. It's there. You can't measure it because it must be measurable. You must be able to take a photograph of it. You must be able to say, oh, yeah, I've reached my goal. I'm on the plane to Mauritius today, because it's measurable. Or you say, I must be able to read text at more than 500 words a minute. It's measurable. You can check it, and you either can do it or you can't do it. Now, the third one is it must be attainable. Now, here you've got to be very, very careful and don't sell yourself short. Now, for example, I can quote you a case of a girl, and I still remember her name. It was Vilma Rudolph. She was crippled. She was a polio sufferer. She wore leg braces. And, you know, she really walked with a very bad limp, but she had a dream to become an athlete. And in 1961, in the Olympic Games, I can't remember where it was, but I remember it's numbers 1961. She was the first American woman ever to win 3 successive gold medals in track and field. Now, if you had talked to that little girl and she told you, I want to be an Olympic athlete, you would say, oh, come on, my little girl, you know, you're setting yourself up. You can hardly walk. So what I'm trying to get across is that sometimes you can attain, you know, incredible goals. But that's the exception. You know, if you can only read 180 words a minute, don't set yourself up and say, I'm going to be a speed reader, and within the next month, I'm going to read 1,000 words a minute. It's just not doable. You know, because your vocabulary is probably not even so good. So what I'm trying to say is make it attainable with hard work. Okay, then the second last one is relevant. You know, the goal must make sense to you. It must be relevant. It must be important to you for some personal reason, or within your work environment, it must be relevant to your work. Okay, that's an obvious one. And also time bound, you know. Now, you may sometimes reach your goal more quickly, but don't say, I want to be able to, let's say, read more than 500 words a minute. When it's within the next 6 months or within the next year, it must be time bound. Otherwise, you're just, you know, ignoring it. So those are, in general, the rules for goal setting. Okay, so I'm going to move on now. As I said, just keep that there. That's the other thing that you need to do, apart from watching where your time is going and also having goals so that you know what to work towards. That's it's not a nice grammatically correct expression, but you know what I mean. You also have to define priorities. The problem is coming back to that list of yours, you know, that fancy do list. You may have 10 things on the list for today. But where do you start? With the easy one, the nice one? No, you have to start with the most important one. A colleague of mine used to say that if you have 3 things on your do list, but all 3 of them are equally important or almost equally important, but you only have time for one, then understand that by not doing a task, you will pick up problems. You're going to have to deal with some flack. You know, you're going to annoy a client or whatever. But you take the one that will create the least amount of unrest, the least amount of dissatisfaction, and you do that first. Keep yourself out of trouble. Anyway, now we can define priorities by various methods, and I'll just look at them. I'll just show you. And sometimes you can just look at your list and say, well, this is the one, this is the first one to do, that's the second one. Covey's quadrant said, if you look at all the stuff on your desk, you first do the urgent stuff, then you do the later stuff, and then if you've got time left, you do the distractions, and the fourth one is just a waste of time. So this is what you do. This is number uno. This is number one, urgent and important. Number two is if you have time left, you do that. They're important but not urgent. You can do it tomorrow. Okay. Three is a so-called urgent, but it's not important. So just leave it if you don't have time. Four is a total waste of time. So, but that's where you start. The urgent and important stuff, do that first. Because if you don't do it, there's going to be trouble. So this is the one method of doing it. This one is the long-winded one. Now, I actually have software. You'll find that when you do the actual assignment later on in the course, there's actually a question in your assignment where you have to do this with software. That's the quickest way to do it. But this is how it works. Let's say you have activity A, B, and C, D. There's 4 jobs, 4 to do. Okay. Now, the question is, which one is most important? Because you look at them and they say, well, they're almost the same. I can't really tell. So what you do is you have to compare them like this, and I'll do a list there. I'll write them there. There's A, there is B, there is C, and there is D. You compare A and B. You see there, you compare A and B. Then you compare A and C. You can see A and C, and then A and D. There's A and D. Then you change color, and you go turquoise. You go B and C. There we go. Sorry, I wanted to change color and you didn't. Sorry. Try again. There we go. B and C and B and D. You see what I'm doing? And then the next one I'll go for, let's say, blue. And will be C and D. So every time you start one down the row, one down the ladder, and you compare it with all the other ones. Then what you do, now sorry I've scribbled here, with every pair, you make a little X. Let's say, for example, you're comparing A to B, and B is the most important one, you make a little star there. Okay, and then you compare A with C, and then you say, nah, you make a little star there. So in other words, for every pair in that list, you put the little star next to the most important one. Even if it's just a little more, you put the star there. And then when you're done, you just add them. So can you see here in the little box that I'm writing? You count all the stars for A, all the stars for all the X's for B, all the X's for C, and all the X's for D. You can clearly see B there has got the most X's. So that's the one you do. And this takes a few seconds on a piece of paper to do. And you'll notice there that once you've made all these little micro decisions, I call them, comparing A with B, A with C, you already know what the answer is long before you get to the end. You force yourself to think, because that's a paired comparison. Yes, another one is just an ABC method. A is urgent, B is later, soon, and C is later, and D is sometime, if ever. Now, one student emailed me once and he says, I actually use a different method. Is that okay? I said, my friend, whatever method works for you, just, even if it's just a gut feel thing, ask yourself, which is the first job to be done, which is the second, which is the third. And if you can't clearly see the order, then use some method to guide you. That's all I'm saying. There's no magic method. Another thing to keep in mind is the so-called, the 80-20 Pareto Principle, that if you look at all the stuff that you do during the day, now this is especially true if you're self-employed, 20% of the stuff you do will have 80% of the results, for example, your income. So, for example, my income probably stems from 20% of what I do. So the question is, what is that 20%? Where is the 20% that really, really has the best return for you as a person, or for your company, for your boss, for the group? And that's what you do first. Okay. Right. Now, all that this slide says is that once you've figured out what to do, you have to schedule. Let's say you look at your activities for studies. They will have to live together with, let's say, spending time with your wife and kids. They will have to live next door to your exercise, whatever. And basically, you've got to schedule them. It's almost like scheduling a project. You do it on a daily basis. And so you block it out. Now, there are ways and means. The best thing is to do it on a piece of paper. By the way, this is just an action plan to get rid of time wasters. I'm skipping this here. So what I should suggest, and I'm looking for a slide, and it maybe here's the one. Sorry, I'll cut back. This slide eluded me. I think I put it in the wrong position. This is a typical weekly schedule, and it's made on an Excel spreadsheet. Now, this looks exactly like the Google Calendar. Now, I really want to ask you is, if you're not on Google Calendar yet, really consider doing it. I found the younger people are more keen to do it. I found that I took quite a while. Being an older person, I'm more used to the spreadsheet or paper method. And I still like the paper method because I can scribble on it. But you know what I like about Google Calendar is you can share it with your mates. For example, the coordinators at EIT actually share a calendar with me. So, for example, if they put on a meeting, it appears on my calendar, and if I put in my, let's say I decide to go overseas on holiday, if I put it on my calendar, it shows up on theirs. So we don't have to pick up the phone, we just communicate via our calendars. The other thing that's nice is that if you put, let's say, a class, let's say your a webcast, in Google Calendar, you will actually get an alert on your mobile phone. It's wonderful. So, get into this. The younger guys in the class will definitely do it. The older guys can say, please just get with the times and play around and see how really nice it is. So what you'll do on here, you may, for example, block out your working day, let's say, 8 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatever. So that's work. You can't do much about it. And then in the evenings, and this goes now down the screen, you block out, your exercise time, family time, and study time, and bedtime, whatever. So you schedule your week, and you can see that, you got special important meetings, you got dinner out with the wife, whatever. The interesting story I read once about this young boy, teenager, came to his father, who is a very, very high-powered executive, and he says, Dad, I never see you. The guy says, yes, but, it bothers me, but, I work so hard, and I get home very late. What shall we do about it? So they agreed that the guy would spend, let's say, certain times in a week, let's say like an hour on a Tuesday night and an hour on a Thursday night with his son. He blocks it out on his calendar, and it's like a webcast. It's not negotiable. And his son said to him, Dad, it's amazing. It's, since I'm on your calendar, I actually get to see you. I know that, that time's mine, it's ours. And so, just don't do it. So that's your schedule, either on paper or on Google Calendar. Now, obviously, you can go and also do this on a monthly basis. That gives you the bird's eye view for a month. Now, once again, the Google Calendar allows you to look at weeks, months, 3 months. There's actually an add-on. I haven't tried it yet, but I've seen there's actually like an unofficial add-on where you can view a year at a time. But if you want to double up on paper, it's fine. Just do it. What I've done, I've got an annual spreadsheet, with the whole year on one page, A4, and then I make printouts of the monthly spreadsheets, and I staple them together, January to June and July to December, and I keep it on my desk. And I can scribble on it, whatever, but it's nice because I can just pick it up and show it to somebody. So yes, the monthly schedule, and here's another one, that's a yearly schedule. Again, just go to Google and search for calendars, and there are several sites that actually make very nice calendars. Find the one that you like best and just use their calendars. No problem. Don't make it yourself, for heaven's sake. They're there. And they can be customized for different countries, showing all the public holidays and whatever. So, and you can print them out for several years in advance if you're that way inclined. Now, if I can just go back, here's the interesting little thing that I'd like you to try. Now, when you eventually get to the assignment, you won't get it now because, as I said, we're going to postpone it till later in your course. But one of the questions in the assignment is actually to please go and do this. And what I would suggest is you do it now, because you're not doing it to please me, you're doing it to improve your time management. Now, how this technique works. Now, Pomodoro is, I don't know which language, Spanish, Italian for tomato. You know, these kitchen timers, you twist them and they go click, 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 and you set it to 3 minutes to boil an egg or whatever. It's a kitchen timer. Some are electronic, some are mechanical. Now, you get the same thing for your computer. This one I think is called Mighty. But there are several. It's a play on words on tomato. Now, how Pomodoro works is that you work in chunks of 25 minutes, and your breaks are 5 or 15 minutes. So you work 25 on, 5 off, 25 on, 5 off, till it's tea time. Then you break for 15. And the idea is that once that 25-minute segment runs, you don't get up from your chair, you don't go to the toilet, you do that in your breaks. You don't answer the phone, you don't look for excuses to go and do something else. You shut up, you look at your keyboard, and you work. Then when the break comes, you stop. You stop mid-sentence. Now, it's a beautiful thing, because what happens is that your colleagues will soon get the hang of this. Because you don't, unless you're in a position where you have to serve customers, by not picking up the phone, you're not interrupting. You're not getting interrupted. And what you do is, the moment you take a break, you phone back. It's no problem. So everybody knows that you're just busy. You'll phone back within a couple of minutes. But you'll find an interesting thing is I noticed that I almost go into a trance. In other words, I concentrate so intensely on what I'm doing, because I know it's only 25 minutes. I can go and have coffee or go for a walk outside, that I forget about my surroundings. And so when the timer goes tring at the end of 25 minutes, I think, what? No, it can't be. I've only worked for 10 minutes. What? My goodness. I've actually worked for 25 minutes being unaware of my surroundings almost. So I don't know. It works for some people, not for everybody, but try it. One bit of negative feedback that I've heard is that it makes the tick-tock sound. What I suggest is you just turn the volume down so far that you can almost not hear it, as long as you can hear the tring at the end. And it's just there, your tray or your taskbar or whatever, and you just watch it with one eye, and at 25 minutes it will alert you, and you can have a break. Okay, so there is Mighty. By the way, the way Mighty works I don't know what to get your subconscious back into line. Some people like to find excuses to actually jump out of this 25-minute routine. So, for example, if you catch yourself talking to somebody, let's say somebody comes into your office, and halfway through your 25 minutes, you stop working and you sit and chat to your mate, then you got to restart at once. You can't pause the clock. If you cheat, you got to restart your 25 minutes. Your subconscious very quickly gets the hang of it. Anyway, I'll leave it to you. Mighty or Pomodoro. Sorry, just to hang back. To make sure that you do a Google search for Pomodoro.